Welcome to the Freewoman podcast, a space for all women who are ready to break free of the inauthentic life. Remember to like and subscribe for more Free Woman in your feed.
Inhale, exhale. You've arrived. Now let's laugh. Hello, free woman.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Free Woman podcast.
I'm just so proud of us.
She-Ra!
Yes. Did anybody else a big fan of She-Ra from the 80s? You know, He-Man's sister. Yeah, I love her. So
That's
She-Ra
like
power.
Cat's spirit. I don't want to say spirit animal, spirit figure.
Yeah. She just, I'm pretty excited about her.
I mean, other civilizations made up gods and goddesses. Why can't we choose our own, right?
I choose She-Ra.
Or did She-Ra choose you?
Maybe both. We'll say both.
It's mutual. It's a healthy relationship.
It's a very healthy relationship. Oh man, yeah. I'm a dork sometimes.
That is something I have really had epiphany about this week is the fact that it's okay to be weird and dorky. And I didn't even realize that I had that insecurity all the way packed in there from my childhood somewhere of don't let people see that part of you.
Right. I know. Yeah, there's a lot of things now that I loved as a kid that I feel less afraid to expose.
Being around safe people will do that.
It does.
It's like, oh, maybe I don't have to mask as much. Maybe it's okay to just say what I think or do what makes me happy.
Well, it's kind of fun being in your household too, because everybody loves like different things. Like your husband loves like the Star Wars, and there's like all these collectibles around. So I had Star Trek after school, so I'm a huge Star Trek geek. Maybe not as much now, but I'll sit down and watch all the Star Treks.
Careful if you call yourself a Star Trek geek, because that entry level is quite high. There are people who really, really, really like Star Trek.
Okay, I would not say I'm a geek. I enjoy watching Star Trek. I know who the characters are, and we'll go that far.
Yeah, you regularly watched it after school.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the only thing on? And then Rosie, the talk show.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, that used to really control what we were exposed to because you couldn't just get on YouTube or get on the streaming networks and search for shows.
Yeah.
You got to watch what cable decided you were going to get to watch. Well, or, if you didn't have cable, it was even more limited.
If you had a DVD.
Oh my goodness. VHS.
VHS.
I was like, we didn't have DVDs until mid-high school. You were probably almost out of high school.
Yeah. Well, I forgot it was called a VHS. That's how long it's been.
It's kind of shocking to realize that now to the 80s is the same as when we were kids back to like the 50s, 60s.
I know. It's
like
bizarre.
40 years ago. Yeah, 60s.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And how we saw that era as being so long ago.
Yeah, that's how our kids
That's what we are
now. Sometimes my son's like, did you have a microwave when you were young? Yes, we had a microwave. We had that. But I do like
No, we had to go out to the fire pit and stir the embers.
I know. But I do like to tell them that we did have a phone that was mounted on the wall and it had a cord. And so
oh yeah, we had one of the, is it rotary dials where you had to spin the dial when I was little, and we got taught manners on how to answer the phone and what the script was supposed to be so that you weren't embarrassing to your family.
Yeah, and you had for us, we had a curfew with the phone or a time when people were not allowed to call after. Or we wouldn't pick up the phone. It was considered rude.
Well, and that's what answering machines were for anyway.
Yeah.
Once you got fancy enough to have one of those, it's like, ooh.
And who got to record the voice recording on there?
There are times when I've missed that because I kind of resent that I'm expected to be on call all the time now.
All the time.
Because people can text or call me all the time. And I was like, the good old days when if you weren't home, you weren't home.
Yeah, or if they're you weren't home. I know you had a true vacation.
Yep.
I know, it's great. Oh man, I do kind of miss all that too. I do appreciate the information you can get from your phone now. Like,
I do think the pros outweigh the cons with internet, having information accessible, being able to reach different groups of people. Like, we live in a very conservative area, but it comforts me knowing that LGBTQ children who live in this area are able to find other like minds online and know that they're not alone.
Yeah, you're not so isolated like you used to be.
Or if you're just like quirky and different, like our children, that they can find other people with those niche interests online.
I know, it's pretty great.
And geek out together and know that they're not alone in their fascination with sharks or jellyfish. Or Legos or manga or whatever it is.
It's pretty cute. Well, I love the ability to research and kind of like do some self-help because we've been talking about our brains.
Yeah.
And so a lot of ways that I've been able to help understand my brain or my trauma is been through my phone. And then when I see my therapist once a week, I'm like, guess what I just discovered? I was researching something, and then she validates and she's like, would you like to go deeper into this and see if it's factual? And I'm like, yes, I would.
Well, when we were young, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, neurodivergency wasn't well understood. The only time it really got brought to the light is if someone was so far down the spectrum that they couldn't mask or function in society.
Yeah.
And it was becoming uncomfortable for teachers and fellow classmates or whatnot.
Well, and
then they would make up labels or categories for these people, and it felt like stigmatizing, like, oh, if you're autistic, then you can't even speak or have friends.
Right. Well, and even therapy too was labeled as kind of a weakness, or, don't let anybody know if anybody is in the family going to therapy and they need help, because it might look bad on the whole family.
Yeah.
But
like, what's wrong with you people? Well, it's kind of gone it's gone the other way now with young people, where they're all self-diagnosing and they're all in therapy and they all have anxiety and trauma and PTSD.
My son always uses this one on me, but Mom, I'm highly sensitive. Or Mom, I have a lot of anxiety. And I'm like, me too.
I mean,
yeah, me too, honey. Like, we're in the same boat, but I still have to do it.
Well, I guess the lack of empathy I feel towards that isn't that it's not maybe a real thing or a real issue, but when we were kids, we didn't even have labels for it, and we just got thrown into the fighting ring and told to survive middle school.
Good luck. Good luck.
Not saying that that's the right way to do it, but it's like there is some truth to we all have anxiety.
Yeah.
We have to push through it. Otherwise, it becomes debilitating and you can't even leave your house.
Well, that's kind of what my anxiety was like as a kid.
Yeah, it was debilitating.
It was. I still remember the feeling inside me when I was very little and I had to be around people I didn't know.
Yeah.
If they were adults. I was supposed to be a flower girl for someone's wedding. I did not participate. I refused to walk down the aisle. Yeah. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
No way am I doing that and having people look at me.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
And then anytime I was invited to a birthday party, my mom had to go. And then I would probably throw up while I was there. And then we'd just leave because it was just so overly stimulating for me. And
my little sister was like that. Yeah.
So when my son, he's very similar with me with the sensitivity. That's actually how I figured out I'm a highly sensitive person, is through him. But so when he tries to use that on me, I'm like, oh no.
I've heard a lot of parents kind of bring this subject up of their kids using mental health as an excuse to get out of doing things they don't want to do. And it's unfortunate because like we said, growing up, there was no acknowledgement at all. And there would probably be a lot less trauma in our generation if there had been some room for people to have, diversity and quirks and maybe accommodations.
Yeah.
But yeah, my daughter uses her anxiety as an excuse not to do things. And I just know, because I don't have anxiety to the extent she clearly does, but I have dealt with anxiety, and I'm like, yeah, you have to just you just have to do the thing. It's the only way. You have to face the monster. You have to face the fear. You have to talk to the cashier.
Yeah, you have to make the phone call. I actually used to avoid making phone calls, like making doctor's appointments or anything like that, because of the amount of anxiety I had to be on the phone. And my mind would kind of go into freeze, and I wouldn't have words. I sounded pretty stupid.
Why are you here? You called me. Oh, right.
Not able to find the words. And sometimes I'd write down what I was needing to say, because the anxiety was so high. So when I hear my kids say these things, I'm like, no.
Yes, that might be difficult. But yes, also, you can do the thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like when the mama is teaching her baby bird how to fly, and she just kind of pushes it out the nest.
She's just
sometimes,
like, push.
You okay?
Yeah, I know. There's been several times we, are ordering at a coffee shop or something, and my daughter will just kind of skulk behind me and whisper her order to me. And I'm like, you can say it.
Say it.
You just, eventually you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to order something and I won't be here. Just say it. You say it. Just say it.
It's funny because I was actually just thinking about my daughter. When she was little, I actually bought her little squeaker shoes. Like they squeaked when she walked, because she used to take off and hide from me and thought it was funny. And I did not. I was very overwhelmed and worried at where she was.
Yeah, your mind going to all of the places.
Yeah, but then with her little squeakers, I could hear where she was going, and she was she was so sociable, and she would, talk to other little kids or other people. And now, as she's a teenager, she's like, I'm an introvert, Mom. I don't socialize.
Oh, okay.
She's like, I don't feel comfortable with social things, and I'm like, since when? But she is that way now. And I'm like, I think it's because she was just so innocent when she was little, and now maybe she just sees people for who they are, and so she likes to stay away.
Well, it's fine. She's probably introverted, but as an introvert myself, you still have to do things.
You
sometimes
still have to do it.
You have to have a job. There are things we have to do, and if we accommodate too much, then we become isolated and debilitated. If we all, I guess, accommodate, quote, every time we're feeling uncomfortable with a situation, then eventually we do become debilitated by our quirks.
I always kind of say it's almost like creating a handicap for yourself, because you're never going to be able to develop or have growth. And
but obviously there should be accommodations, not to say there shouldn't be accommodations, and not to say these things aren't hard to work through, but just,
I guess because from our time, our generation, and I'm sure even the generations prior, I mean, there's a reason why our parents were the way
I'm sure that's why there's such a whiplash right now coming from that generation, from the boomer generation.
Absolutely.
Right?
But it was like, I had to, in order for me to get a job, get out in the world, I had to overcome these things that really absolutely terrified me. And I would talk myself through it out loud too.
Oh yeah.
When I was going for an interview or anything. And
I would do similar things where I would prepare for every worst scenario in my mind, and then be like, but we will still be alive if that happens, and so that's okay.
Similar. Or, the night before, if I had a new job, or if I had new clients for my work, I would basically be up all night thinking about it and organizing it in my head, every detail of every word I was going to say or how I was going to lay out my day.
I guess the difference maybe between how we're parenting and what we struggled with in the 80s and 90s is compassionate pushing.
Yes.
Where it's I have empathy, I have compassion. I understand that this anxiety is real, or this introversion or whatever it is that's coming up for our kids. But also, in the most loving way, I'm going to make you order for yourself today if you want a drink.
You can do it.
Because I recognize my daughter where she's at. I recognize this is within like a spectrum that she is capable of doing this. She just really doesn't like doing it. And so with compassion and empathy, I can like see where she needs pushing and see where she needs accommodating.
Yeah, same. And I think for me, for like my son, because he's highly sensitive, when you're highly sensitive, your emotions are big. And I'm the same way.
It's like a tidal wave versus a river, like most people where it'll flow through them, it crashes into you.
And it's really hard sometimes to even talk because the emotions just take over and you usually cry. I cried a lot. But for him, he has a lot of anger too. So things would come out with a lot of anger. So what I'm doing for him is therapy. I'm allowing him to have someone to talk to and help him understand his emotions and what he can do with his emotions. And a lot of times when you're highly sensitive, and if you have, anybody, if you're not taking care of your emotional health, they build up, pile up, and then one day you just have a huge explosion. Or you can get really depressed. The anxiety gets really high.
Or anger management issues.
And well, when he gets really, especially when he was little, when they get really built up, he was starting to take it out on me, and he was like starting to hit me, not in a really bad way, but just in a way where it's like, something's wrong. He never like comes up and like smacks his hand on my leg or, and then like screams or has these big emotions. And sometimes he would even like hit his head on a wall because it's just too much for him and he doesn't know what to do with this. And so him doing therapy is actually what really helped me to understand I'm a highly sensitive person too. And then these lights were going off and I was like, oh my God, this is what's going on with me. I really wish someone would have like guided me and helped me when I was little.
Well, that's just what I was thinking as we were talking, that so much awareness has come in that our children, millennials, have their children all getting diagnosed, right? And it's causing millennials to be like, oh, that's what it is. I'm that way.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of millennials are working on themselves. And I think there's this like pandemic of millennials going no contact with their parents because we're starting to talk to them and we want to understand what the fuck happened. And a lot of the parents are still just avoidant or victims. And, they never got the right type of condition.
Well, it's that same thing we were talking about with our kids, where we can have compassion for that boomer generation that had it even worse, right? They didn't even come out with the word PTSD till the 50s.
The boomers, their parents are the ones that were in World War II.
Was it the silent generation?
Yeah.
The World War II, the ones who fought in the war.
Yeah, and then the boomers happened and
everyone just wanted to pretend,
but then all that like hidden trauma was coming out in the home and the kids were getting severely abused or lack of love.
It's almost like repressing and pretending everything fine doesn't fix the problem. And then it just trickled down until mental health became aware enough, far enough along that they started to have terms and categories and labels for the different ways this was manifesting in neurodivergency. And now we almost have this abundance of information where our children are using this as, their crutch or their excuse, or it's kind of trendy to have a diagnosis or a condition.
Well, I'm this and this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just like, wow, when I was a kid, you did not mention.
You would have gotten bullied.
Oh, you got, yeah.
Any weakness was an opening for
you
them
do not share any problems at all.
Yeah, but kids will be kids, and the emotional immaturity that comes out when you're in elementary, middle school, high school is gonna find a way. And so now it's the over self-diagnosing and the using of political correctness or having compassion for these conditions for them to kind of like manipulate and work their thing.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I was watching a show with my daughter last night. You were there, and we were watching this show, and it's, high school drama, kind of like we had the same kind of shows when we were in high school too. We had The Friends, and we had, well, that was a little out of high school, but sort of the soap opera with high school kids.
I know. I was watching. I was like, I am so glad I'm not in high school anymore.
But the way they use language is so different than what it was when we were kids. They use things like respect your boundaries, own up to your shit, and that's how they poke at each other. Yeah, where we didn't even have those words.
We did. I didn't even know what the word manipulation was until it was about 8 years ago, because I went to this really deep course self-help.
Or they'll call each other toxic.
Yeah, you're so toxic. I don't need you in my life.
And now they're using all these mental health terms to now gaslight and bully each other.
I know. I'm just I didn't even know what any of this was until recently, but now my kids know it because we talk about it.
Teenage hormones and insecurities will find a way. They will still bully each other.
It's just the
They'll
same.
just do it in a politically correct way.
They're using different words, but they're doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching it. I was like, I can't watch another episode. This is kind of triggering.
But this is the inevitable result also of repressing and conforming that we've been enduring for the past 50 years.
Absolutely. I think there's I think there's a little bit more of a shift, a different home environment than when I was a kid because of all this information and knowledge. Just listening to the way my kids talk to each other versus the way my siblings talk. We didn't even talk. We just threw stuff at each other and really hurt each other and laughed at each other's pain all the time. And I watched my kids and I'm like, maybe it wasn't okay in my home.
Yeah, we're all doing our own work as they sort of go into the deep end of this therapy stuff. My family, we just didn't talk. We were the opposite, where you guys were maybe yelling and throwing things, and we would do the silent treatment or the icy cold, cold shoulder.
Yeah.
Not even really acknowledging you if we were mad at you.
Yeah, well, we did not do that as kids. Well, a little bit, but as adults, that's the thing.
That started to come out.
That's the thing now, because everybody's just too afraid to have a conversation now because of all the trauma.
But it was this very unspoken, passive, aggressive. And then once we weren't mad at you anymore, we would bring you a treat or say something, kind of laugh at a joke with you, and then it's clear that that's resolved and everything's better now.
Oh wow.
And so
so my sister actually does that with me. There's no treat gifting or anything like that.
I'm sorry, you should at least get a cookie.
I know, I have to chase her down and be like,
she should bring you a pretzel.
She does not. I have to figure out, what did I do? What did I say? Oh, you noticed I'm mad at you? Well, yeah, you're not responding to any of my texts or my phone calls, so something's wrong.
The game playing. But it's so interesting how there's this overlap with neurodivergency and family patterns and trauma.
Very much.
And it can make it really tricky, kind of figuring out do I have ADHD or do I just have trauma brain? Or is it menopause? Because that's always in the mix now, too.
Or do I just have a really odd brain? Maybe I'm just odd.
Yeah. Well, where is it trauma and where is it neurodivergency? And
like you said, also perimenopause, too. Because, the hormones really...
If you're a middle-aged millennial like us, woohoo, you might be dealing with that.
Yeah, it can be so many different factors.
But watching our kids get their diagnoses and figuring their things out, and it's I just thought that was normal. Everyone in my family does that.
And then you're like,
is that a thing?
I know. Well, especially when I find out my kids have something and it's hereditary. Sorry, some words are I gotta say that slow.
Yeah. You're wait, this runs in families?
And then I was like, I kind of do that too. Maybe I'm dyslexic.
Yeah. And so there's a large amount of people in their middle age, group, 40s, 50s, who are realizing that they're dyslexic or autistic because their kids are getting diagnosed, or ADHD.
I've wondered too if I've had ADHD for a while, but there was a lot of things on there that I didn't really like connect with. I do know my older brother has ADHD.
Well, and it is possible that some of this is just trauma, PTSD, CPTSD, getting this diagnosed.
Well, there's a lot of similarities with the CPTSD brain, which I have. I have trauma brain.
Well, and like I know when I've gone through the checklist for ADHD, I've just been like, no, this is a CPTSD thing because I didn't have it as a child because I didn't have like the really intense childhood trauma. But I developed these things after having really intense trauma in my 20s. Yeah. And so that's why I'm like, oh no, this is a PTSD thing.
Yeah, it's been like...
It's confusing.
It is. It's been like this big, like, puzzle piece that I've been trying to put together.
You had it as a young child, it's like, how do you differentiate, right?
Well, and I've been trying to figure out my brain because... I have a really, I like socializing, but I have a very difficult time speaking and communicating, especially when I'm under stress and like the words just disappear, especially like confrontation as well. It's like really difficult for me to speak, like the words get stuck. And so that's when I discovered I have a trauma brain, CPTSD, like when I don't feel safe, my brain to protect me like shuts down.
Yeah.
And that comes from childhood. And, going through all of figuring that out, I definitely understand now from a very young age, I did not feel safe.
Well, that can be really frustrating though, because times of heightened anxiety are times when you need your voice more than ever to communicate to people around you that you don't feel okay or that you need a boundary. And if your voice shuts down, then it's a helpless feeling. It's a very helpless feeling. And I needed boundaries and I needed to feel safe, but there was nobody around me, an adult at all there supporting that feeling. Trauma happens when you're a child. It affects brain development. Like your brain is wired differently because of the childhood that you had. Yeah, it's really frustrating. It's a lot of work. And therapy has helped me a lot with that, because like being a mother has helped me a lot with that because of just watching my children and seeing them versus like my whole life experience and just the way they handle things versus how I handle things. And it's always I just have this whole like cheerleading squad inside of me that's like, you can do it. And then this part of me, I don't want to. And I'm like, I'm really afraid. Like I can get hurt. Someone can see who I really am. The internal battles. Yeah. But another thing that another reason why I've been really trying to figure out my brain is because I've held myself back a lot in my life because of this belief that I'm dumb, like that I'm stupid. I really thought I was stupid. Yeah. and then I found out I'm dyslexic and I was like, oh my God, I'm not dumb. My brain just works really different. Yeah. Luckily I, worked a lot with kids back in my past life. Feels like I've lived so many different lives. I spent about 10 years, a little over 10 years working with kids in one-on-one situations. And so I did have a student who was severely dyslexic. And it helped me recognize that my oldest had dyslexia. And then when you started talking about your brain and your frustrations with it, I was just like, have you considered that you might be dyslexic? I'm like, what is that? And so I always thought it was just somebody reading words backwards. I did too, until I became more educated. Until like 2 months ago, I found out that is not what it's not just the reversal of words. There's a lot more detail to that. And actually my daughter was the one that brought up dyslexia too around the same time. And just so you know, every time I'm trying to say dyslexia, I have to really concentrate. Yeah, whoever came up with that word was just very... It's cruel. Sadistic. Yeah. It is a really hard word to say. Yeah.
My daughter actually was like, I think I'm dyslexic. And then I think maybe you mentioned it's hereditary, or I heard it's hereditary. And I was talking to my therapist about it too. And so I was like, you know what? Now I love our phones. We have all this information. I'm like, I'm going to Google what is dyslexic. And I read it, and it was like a light bulb went off, and I was like, oh my God, I am dyslexic. Oh my God, I'm not stupid. So dyslexia is neurodivergent, and it's when you work more on your right side of your brain. You use your right side of your brain. So you work with images, you work with emotions.
Dyslexic people tend to be very creative.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're artists or musicians.
You see patterns really clear. You're very intuitive, and you're a much more deep thinker, but you don't really, it's harder to activate your left brain, which is where the words come from. And I've always said, well, maybe not always, but recently, I'm like, I feel like I have a stutter in my brain, because like when I'm trying to say words, like I can see it, but I can't pronounce it. And it's also like conversations. I have like all these thoughts, like all these images, and I cannot put them into words. It's very difficult. And it's hard to speak really quickly too, to keep up in conversations. And a lot of times I just hold myself back because I just can't find the words. And then in my head, I'm like, God, I'm just so stupid. But this also ties in with my CPTSD, with my trauma brain, because my dad was extremely abusive, and at a very young age made sure myself and my siblings knew that he was the dominant one and that we are the dumb ones. Like anytime we tried to talk to him, he would belittle us, or he would use really big words. He would talk fast, so that way we couldn't keep up with him. And I really thought I was dumb. And also school. Like, I struggled in school. I had a hard time learning to read. I had a really hard time learning to write.
Yeah.
I had to take special classes. Like, I was pulled out of the regular class.
And that's traumatic when you're a young child.
Yeah. And
your dad is already telling you that you're dumb.
Yeah. And I couldn't, I had a really hard time learning in school. So all of this background of my childhood just made me feel like I wasn't smart. I was dumb. I was like, I can't learn. I don't know how to learn. And so I've held myself back with, like, I didn't go to college. I was very afraid. I was like, I'm not going to be able to learn because I'm dumb.
Yeah.
But then as time has gone by and I've self-studied and I went to massage school and I had to take nationals for my tests and I passed, I was like, for the first time, I'm like, I don't think I'm that dumb. When I really like something, it's like I love it. But also with dyslexia, it's really hard to retain information. It's hard to like remember things. So I have to
you have to try hard.
I have to really dedicate myself to memorizing something. Like tests are really hard for me too. And that's another reason why I just felt dumb. So anyways, that's a little information there about being dyslexic. And I feel kind of free now knowing. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. I just have to take a different approach to learning.
Yeah. And that's the thing is understanding neurodivergence, it shouldn't be used as an excuse to not do the things that you want to do or don't want to do. It should be a way, it's like a tool in your belt, right? It's a way to understand how you work so that you can get where you want to be versus just walking around feeling like there's something wrong with you or you're less than. And I think that's why a lot of our generation, when they do get their diagnoses, they have this moment of freedom, liberation of like, I'm not the problem. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just work differently. It's not that I'm dumb. It's not that I'm a loser or a big old weirdo. It's that I just think like I have this kind of brain.
Yeah, my brain
processes the world differently.
The problem is not us. It's our system.
Oh yeah.
It's
well, that's why we need all these labels now is because like it's not working for so many people to sit in cubicles and sit behind school desks for 8 hours a day.
It's not. Yeah, that was another thing I really struggled with. I will never forget kindergarten and just those first few months. And I still remember sitting there and being like, I don't understand why I have to be here.
This doesn't make sense.
I do not understand why I have to sit at this desk. It was so hard for me. And I would look outside the window the entire time. But my favorite time in class was when we got a snack, which was milk or chocolate milk. Mm-hmm. And we did art. And that was my favorite thing to do, was art.
Yeah.
And now I understand why.
Well, I think a lot of us have false beliefs about being stupid, being less than, being weird, not being popular or likable or whatnot because of trauma experienced in school.
Oh, absolutely. God. I mean, it's such a short window in your life, but that like short little window affects your...
It's very formative.
Years of life.
Yeah.
So anyways, it was fun kind of watching the show last night with your daughter.
It's a little triggering.
Seeing the stuff they're doing or talking about. And yeah, it was very triggering. I was like, I'm so glad I'm past that stage of my life and that I am where I'm at. And I figured so many parts of myself out.
Just walking into my children's school now is triggering for me. I'm like, if the bell rings while I'm there, I'm like, oh no. They're coming! Don't let them see you! And teenagers are mean.
They are so mean.
I am not equipped for this anymore.
No, not
But then I have kind of this moment of realization of this is what I make my kids go and do every day.
I know, this battlefield.
I'm so sorry, guys.
I know. Yeah. But, well, you've been discovering stuff about you, too.
It's been really funny because all 4 of my children have autism. I would say high functioning, but definitely the signs are all there. The quirkiness is all there. And the reason I was able to recognize it in them is because for a job, I worked with autistic kids for a while. Mm-hmm. And also being a teacher and having taught children that were neurodivergent and recognizing that they needed different accommodations, having to be like intuitive and roll with that. And like you start to be able to pick them out pretty fast. You're like, okay, this kid is not like the rest. They're a little different. They're a little spicy. They might need a little something else to help them engage with the material, right? And that was something I really enjoyed actually, was figuring out how to get kids excited, especially kids who you could tell had really given up or thought they were dumb, and being able to find ways to get them excited and to help them feel that confidence of having accomplished something and achieved something. And so then I started having kids and I was like, this is familiar. Like these things that I'm seeing in my students, those certain special students I see in my children. And anyway, progress to now.
Fast forward
18 years later. And I'm like, man, it's so weird that all of my children seem to have autism. How funny, how quirky is that, And I am remarried, and so I have a child with my now husband as well. And that child is showing signs too. And it's just like, why does this keep happening? So strange. And then, I did. I had kind of an epiphany because I've said it to my daughter several times. Autism shows up different in girls. It's harder to identify. We mask a lot better. And then I was just, falling asleep the other night and my mind was wandering as it does before it surrenders. And I had this light bulb, as my own words played back to me. Autism manifests differently in girls. They are higher masking. It is not as obvious. And I was just like, and then I was like, well, no, this is just the way my family is because everyone in my family is this way. And then I was like, and then I, for fun, was like, well, let's go take just a little online quiz and see what the questions are. And my whole life just unfolded before my eyes with every single question. I was like, wow. Next question. Wow. Next question. Oh my God.
I think I'm autistic.
Yeah, I think I might be on the spectrum. And what's funny is I actually felt a lot of joy about that because I've always said autistic people are my favorite people. I have several close friends who are autistic. I've married 2 men that are on the spectrum. And I was like, I just really like them. They're just really authentic. And it's one of my favorite things. They're excited about their special interests and they're super authentic. And both of those things I find very engaging and comfortable to be around. Because I'm autistic.
I know. I really love autistic people too because of just how real and honest they are.
Well, that is an autism trait, is that we really don't like fake people and we really don't like superficial conversation. And I just thought these things were, just me, and they are just me, but they also are an autism thing.
That's really great.
Yeah, so it's been fun just realizing and like, it's been coming in pieces, but then doing that questionnaire, I just really, my whole world just shifted on its axis. And I was like, well, okay, all right.
That's how I felt too.
Okay.
And I found out when I had that light bulb moment of like, oh my God, I'm dyslexic. And then I was like, joyful.
Uh-huh.
And then that like shadow thing I've had back here forever telling me I'm stupid. I was like, you're wrong. I am not stupid.
Well, I had this insecurity feeling because I never was good at, I guess, being the social butterfly.
Yeah.
And always was kind of a loner, but I knew that was a shameful thing to be. So I would kind of hide it by like cozying up to different groups, like, oh, I'm sort of part of like, I'll just stand close to them and no one will know. And then you go stand close to this group and I'm like, no one will ever notice if you're not interesting enough. They won't know that you're a loner and label you as the weird kid. And what's wrong with them that they don't have a friend group, right? Because friend groups were such a thing in high school.
They were.
In the millennial high school anyway.
It was. I mean, I kind of did something similar. I bounced around with a lot of different groups. And I forced myself to be in high school. When I went into high school, I will never forget, I talked in my brain, in my head, and I was like, we are going to make friends and we are going to have conversations. And it was like prepping myself and how we were going to do that. And I would make conversations in my head, like I would make a role play. So that way if somebody asked me a question, I would always already have the answer ready. And
well, I learned, and I know it's called masking now, but I could mask with people really well and be very social with them for a conversation or so. But as far as like developing a close, intimate friendship, that was hard for me. I always felt like there's something about me that was different or weird or didn't know how to connect with people, like, because I just wasn't interested in what most kids were interested in. And so I couldn't get excited about, In Sync or something. And
In Sync, the music group?
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like I was an old lady, a little old lady in a high schooler's body. And I was like, someday we'll be old and then we won't be weird anymore and it'll be okay. And we can just read our books and stay home with our cozy blanket.
Yeah.
and so much won't be expected of us. That I didn't like making small talk. Small talk's really hard for me. Eye contact is hard for me. I feel very stimulated by people and their emotions, and one-on-one, I feel like I can really connect with someone and find what makes them tick and find a way to engage. But then when it's like groups of people and there's a group dynamic, it's very overwhelming for me. And I end up either over socializing or shutting down. And so neither of those is a great feeling where you're like, did I just humiliate myself? And so even when I'm in group settings, I try to find like the other quiet person and have a conversation with them. And it's really hard to have conversations about things that I'm not interested or passionate about. I'm just like, it just feels like this giant waste of energy and it's very draining. And so then I just would feel, after doing group things, I end up feeling super exhausted.
Just really wiped out.
This was always something, it definitely overlaps with being introverted. But I do really enjoy talking about things that I'm passionate about. And I find that very like stimulating and energizing. And so if someone wants to talk with me about psychology or about trauma or, you know, these various like special interests that I have about mythology, then I can like really engage with them. And I'm happy to talk for hours with that person.
Yeah, which is something we do.
Yeah, which is why we connect.
Yeah.
But if they want to just talk about something I'm not interested in, I can fake it for a little bit of time, but then my mind starts wandering. I start feeling really drained. I feel very uncomfortable, like I'm not sure I'm saying the right things.
I actually struggle with that more now that I'm older and just tired. Like,
just tired.
And just, you know, like tired of people. And so my conversation or my time with people, it's just a lot harder for me to put that type of energy out there. There's a word I want to use, but I can't think of it. So
but
it's stuck in my head. Maybe I'll think of it afterwards.
There's a lot of things that I find very draining and overstimulating, but I'm not debilitated by it. I just don't like it. And so it's interesting to realize that just because you're not debilitated by it, the fact that it's draining, that it's exhausting for you, that you avoid it if you can, it does still fall under the autism spectrum. And so I haven't ever labeled myself that way because I'm like, well, it's not like a debilitating thing. It just is hard to do it. It's hard to think about what to wear every day. Sometimes I just wish I could wear the same thing every day. Even though I really do love when I find a cute outfit, it just feels mentally exhausting having to like think about it every day. And sometimes we have to think about it multiple times a day because we have to get changed to go to the gym or something.
Oh man.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming.
That's funny that you talk about that with clothes, because that's like the opposite for me. It's like this very creative thing for me. And I'm like in my head, especially if we're going to travel, I am in my head like organizing how we're going to look.
Planning each outfit.
Yes. And every day planning my well, not anymore. I'm too tired. And
see, I do plan my outfits ahead of time, but that's because otherwise my brain kind of like becomes overwhelmed in the morning when I'm also tired. And then I crumble and I'll just end up wearing pajamas.
Oh, wow. That's so funny. Well, and pajamas are cute too.
Yeah, well, I'll just choose something comfortable.
Yeah, something comfortable.
Because it's like, well, if we can't figure this out, then who cares? And we might as well just be comfortable. I think sometimes we get caught up on the stereotypes or the extremes, and we think since I'm not that way, then this label doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
And I guess it doesn't matter, except like we've said, having the word to explain this part of ourselves that we've always felt insecure about, having a word for it, and having it not be a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's liberating and healing. And so I think there's a lot of stigma out there about people like self-diagnosing or over-diagnosing, because what we see happening with this generation is like, it's a special thing. It's an excuse. But for me and for you, it's been this super healing thing.
It has. Like you said, it's
I'm not like a sucky woman just because I have a hard time getting dressed in the morning. Like, this is just part of the neurodivergency.
Well, and, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's like a kind of a phase of forgiveness coming in for me now.
Yeah.
Like, well, I understand why I'm at where I'm at today, because I did have these blockages. And it's not because this and this, like these negative things I used to think about myself. It's because we just didn't have the right support. And
well, there weren't even like terms or labels for it.
Yeah.
Only in extreme situations, right? They didn't understand. And so they couldn't have helped us because there wasn't anything.
No, there wasn't anything at all. I still remember a class that I had in high school. It was a history class, and I still like loved that class, but now I understand why I loved it so much. He used poster boards, like It was British history. He used poster boards, so he had all these visuals, and then he would also do little film clips as he taught, and be up front and just like giving this really elaborate lecture. But I will never forget, and now I understand I really learned with visual. I learned with all of the things, like all the ways they can put it up there and teach me words, subtitles, visual, color. It really helps me to remember everything. And that was the easiest class I ever had because the way he taught, and I actually still remember a lot of it because of the way he taught. And I was like, that was the best class I had ever experienced. But that's what my brain needed. I just needed visual, I needed words, I needed color, and I needed someone to be very excited about the way they were teaching to like pull me in, like storytelling kind of.
Well, I've just had this realization that there's this part of myself that I had shame around. And it was like perfectionism, and it was like, don't be awkward, don't be weird, don't say the wrong thing, don't embarrass yourself or even worse, the people around you. And realizing that a lot of that social anxiety or not enoughness, it comes from being neurodivergent and having to mask. And I don't even know how to quite verbalize, but it's funny because having this epiphany and realization that these are neurodivergent traits from all of this undiagnosed autism in my family, because my kids aren't the only grandkids that have been diagnosed with this. And hearing this kind of like negative voice or shame persona come up still and be like, no, you should still feel like something's wrong with you, or you're still not enough, or you're still like shameful, and being like, actually, I really love all the autistic people I know. And I've always thought that they're like really intelligent and smart, especially in the areas of their special interests. And then realizing that that is me, it kind of like puts a block on that shame voice where it's like, I have this way of arguing back now that is pretty irrefutable.
Yeah. You're like, no, actually, I love this part about me.
Yeah.
I know, it has been really cool how it's almost like flipped the table, like turned things around. And it is that light bulb moment of like, you know, I'm okay. And the way I am and my brain and just everything is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, this is just a part of who we are, and we're allowed to accommodate it rather than have like berate ourselves. It was like I had an inner voice that would berate myself of like, you should do better. You should be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
How dare you wear pajamas, the same pajamas as yesterday, 2 days in a row. Like, why are you such a lazy slob? You know, it's like this negative internal voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually really love your brain. Your brain has helped me so much with my healing journey. And
well, we were just talking before we started the episode about how my brain is super detail oriented, and I become really obsessed with details and fixated on them. But it's like I'm kind of like putting these details together in like almost a web-like fashion to understand an issue.
Yeah.
Where you like are this bird's eye view where you come from like the bigger picture.
It's a lot.
Into understanding. And so we both reach the same conclusion, but we come at it from these very different ways.
One of the things about being neurodivergent is it really helps you see the mask that everybody wears. And
and I think for a long time you think that you're the one who's wrong, and then there's this moment where you have this epiphany, this light bulb, where you find a list of autism online and your mind explodes.
Yeah.
And you realize that you're not the one who's wrong. That you're not the one who's messed up, but it's like the rest of the world and how fake it is and how inauthentic it is that is the problem.
Yeah. So it's not you.
Well,
it's just the world.
If you have gone to this point in this episode of listening to us dissect our brains, the reason this is relevant to the free woman, the reason this is relevant to you is because part of setting yourself free from this inauthentic society, this inauthentic world, is learning to understand yourself, learning to understand how your mind works, and setting yourself free from this idea that you are broken, that you are shameful, that there's something wrong about you.
That you're stupid.
It's
and that
part of that self-love journey.
It is. And it's learning to connect also to, you do. You have to go into the very beginning and understanding the way you were brought up and these beliefs you have around yourself because of either school, family, parents, friends.
Yeah, and we're in our 40s and we're just figuring these things out. And I like to think we're pretty self-aware. We've done a lot of self-reflecting, a lot of mindfulness. We've done therapy. We've done all these things, and it's still only now in our 40s that it's connecting. And so it's a journey, but...
Well, I also think things are connecting now because my subconscious feels safe. I think a part of me finally feels safe enough to open these parts of myself up and to see. I
mean, it just happens how it happens. Being around safe people where you can express yourself authentically, having children that are little tiny mirrors that show you your different traits.
And I've done this long journey of I'm going to choose me now. And I feel like there's a part of me inside that actually believes and trusts that. And so it's opening up to me.
But I'm just amazed. I'm wow, we're still discovering things about ourselves. What are we going to discover in 10 years from now when we're in our 50s?
What are we going to figure out even just this week?
What light bulb is going to go off then? And so it's this journey and this self-love journey. It's not just I went on a retreat or I did plant medicine or I had this one epiphany. It's a series of epiphanies.
It just continues.
And setting yourself free from all the bullshit the society puts on you is a series of epiphanies.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Hop on. It's a ride.
It's a ride. I'm like you said, I'm kind of curious. When we're 50, who will we be then?
What things are we going to be figuring out then?
I know.
We'll be oh my gosh, did you know? I'll be yeah, I did think that.
Yeah.
There were signs.
There were signs.
How did we miss it this whole time?
I guess I just wasn't ready to know.
Yeah. And you know what, though? That's just how healing works.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you're finally safe enough that this part of your brain is opening up. And I think for me, it's being around safe people, seeing my kids, and seeing my daughter especially, because like I said, girls manifest differently than boys with autism. And it's just this realization of, also looking at family stuff. I've been doing a lot of work on family patterns and figuring out the different dynamics in my family. And I'm just oh my God.
Yeah.
We're autistic. Oh my God, that's why we do these things. Yeah. That's why we're this way. That's why so many of the grandkids are getting diagnosed. It's just this huge light bulb moment because I don't think anyone from the outside in would look at us and think neurodivergent because we were very proper and we were very conforming. But there it is. And so it just happens when it happens. And I don't know, there's this kind of beautiful synchronicity of just hopping all along on this self-healing roller coaster and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
It's been a ride. And you know what? I would encourage you to explore your brain. I would encourage you as a free woman to get really familiar with what makes you tick, with what your insecurities are, with what brings you joy.
Yeah, kind of get to know the stories in your head and find out where the root of it comes from.
The different characters.
And the different characters
that are play acting arguments in there.
Yeah, yeah. I've been so aware of them lately and I'm this is that self-sabotaging part of myself. I'm no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and for me it's been, this is the shame part of myself. Yeah, and so part of setting yourself free is getting to know your brain.
I think it's pretty empowering when you get to know your brain because you really are the master of your life.
The brains are cool.
Brains are really cool.
And you know what's even more cool is the fact that they're all different. That we all have very unique, different brains doing different, unique things. And you know what, free woman? Your brain is just as beautiful as any other brain.
It is. And if you listen to this entire video and listen to us ramble on about our brains, thank you.
Yeah, I hope that there was something in there that maybe helped you understand your brain better or look at some of your patterns in a different light.
Yeah, please share with us if you had any epiphanies as well as we talked.
Yeah, there's so many just unconscious things that we do. Like I talked about getting dressed and how that's like a stressful thing for me. But I also love clothes, but it just feels overwhelming at times.
I didn't even know that about you until just now.
You know, I never really thought about it. I just knew that I didn't like it.
Yeah. And to me, it's this like entire, like, well, I already said this, like, it's just this like very creative thing for me. So I get very excited.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of detective work, figuring out your brain and figuring out patterns, like looking at your family, looking at children, looking at social romantic patterns. These are all cues to what's happening up there in the gray matter floating in your head.
This entire universe up here.
But I don't know. I sit with this idea of you have a beautiful brain. You have an intelligent brain. Your brain is wonderful. And do you believe that? Do you see that in yourself? Because that might be a doorway for you into what's going on.
Yeah, see what comes up when you ask yourself those questions. Because that's like kind of the first step. That's a really good first step to seeing where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easier for us to recognize the beauty in others than in ourselves. So.
Absolutely.
So from two neurodivergent brains to another, whatever's happening in your brain. Thanks for listening today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Remember to like and subscribe.